Hey, all my Aries friends. Welcome to my channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today to go over the year 2025. Month by month, we're going to pull out the highlights of each month, how this will, what houses it will affect for you directly, and how you can prepare for the changes in the planets, because we're going to experience some real energy shifts. Now, this is for Aries rising based on whole sign Western astrology. If you don't know your rising sign, you'll want to go to one of the free birth calculators on the internet, and you just need your exact time of birth and location in order to determine that information. So the month January starts off with a bang. We're going to see the nodes shift from the Aries Libra axis into the Pisces Virgo axis. This will be the north node in Pisces and the south node in Virgo. Pisces is your 12th house. Virgo is your 6th house. So the emphasis this year will be on how you potentially get in your own way. The 12th house is known as a house of self-undoing or self-troubles. It is a house that can be very, very spiritual. It is ruled by Neptune. Neptune is currently experiencing the last degrees of Pisces and will move into your first house later in the year. We'll get to that. But this is really important because as the nodes shift, they're going also into the axis of your physical health. So it's going to be important for you to pay attention to that. The North Node, in many ways, you're going to want to experience a part of yourself that comes from your soul's knowing. That's how that feels to me. The Pisces energy is super creative, very musical, very imaginative, fanciful in many ways. And you could find yourself being able to channel some of your more challenging emotions into your creativity, which will help shift your soul on a frequency level. Now we're going to experience the South Node in Virgo. The South Node is a point of erosion. It's a point of loss. It's a point where something in the human structure is let go of. I don't really like to use that term, but it's the best term possible, in order to open up for something better, something more aligned. It's a very spiritual point. I'll do separate videos on the nodes and everything. So we'll go into more detail. So otherwise this video will be days long. But suffice it to say that the focus of the next year in the nodal structure will be on your mental health, your physical health, your daily activities, the work that you do. The South Node is the work that you do. And if it is aligned to your greatest and highest good. We will see Venus, Saturn, and Neptune join the North Node in Pisces. We're going to see a lot of energy in Pisces this year as Venus and Mercury will retrograde and then move forward. So there's a real focus on your 12th house. We will also see Uranus move direct in your second house of Taurus. This is a house where you use your skills, you use your voice. It's a house that rules your family history and the self-worth and confidence that was nurtured as a result of your childhood. So there's going to be a lot of focus on where you have been mentally enslaved. This would be the Virgo energy, into some sort of role to play. The North Node is going to encourage you to become more aware of the divinity within. And I think that will help reconcile any anger, frustrations, or resentments that you could hold. Being Mars ruled, you're very powerful. You're very willing to take action, but sometimes it's really a reaction. And this nodal structure is going to bring an awareness to your reactions and ask you to come from a more spiritual dynamic, raising your sight. Okay, let's go to February. Jupiter will turn direct in your third house of Gemini. Jupiter is technically in detriment in Gemini, but for me, I've always sort of seen it as this, having to come off the mountain and down into the valley where the real people live, and be aware of the intricacies of everyday life. I mean, things can just get away from us. And Jupiter can sometimes see such the big picture that it doesn't understand, how you got errands to run, bills to pay, food to put on the table. So Jupiter is going to experience its last, for the next 12 years, energy in Gemini. And I think that's really opening and expanding our minds. And also, I want to offer this because Jupiter has expanded an awareness of the media, of our platforms. It has really sort of, at least here in the United States, made us aware of how some of this media is contrived, or we use filters. I mean, I have a filter right now on me and I look 40 and I'm not 40 anymore, but I enjoy it. So I think there's going to be a bit of exposure to exaggeration in the media that we'll see coming in February and until Jupiter moves into Cancer, where it will be exalted. Mars will move direct in Cancer. Mars was in Cancer in 2024. It's not the most comfortable place. Mars is in fall there. So there's an emotional awareness as your ruling planet has to traverse the house of your nurturing, your home, your fourth house, your mom. So things could come up about that. There will be oppositions between Mars and Pluto. We will have experienced the first one the end of 2024, exact at 1 degree when Mars was in Leo. And that actually hasn't happened yet because I'm filming this in December, but I anticipate it to be quite an interesting New Year's Eve week. There's a lot of, that's very aggressive opposition. Pluto in Aquarius, Mars in Leo, very aggressive. So be mindful. If you happen to watch this before New Year's Eve 2025. We will also see the stellium in Pisces get very tight as the moon joins, and the sun will eventually join at the end of February. Mercury and Saturn and Neptune and Venus in Pisces. So this is your 12th house with a bunch of planets really asking you to dig deep into your soul's yearnings, to listen to the divinity within, to slow down enough to be able to hear the voice that is your voice, but is not your voice. In March, we will have our first eclipse season, and it will be the last eclipse on the Aries axis. We'll have our first full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo, again, your 6th house of work, of your everyday habits, of your health, of the things that you're enslaved to mentally, the things you feel obligated and dutiful to. And then we're going to see a new moon partial solar eclipse in your 1st house. And so this will be a really opportune time to set intentions for the coming year, or the coming 6 months, the next 6 months, as eclipses have a 6-month influence. Neptune will enter Aries for the first time since, I believe, 1862, which was in the midstream of the, or pretty much second year of the United States Civil War. Now, Saturn is going to start to creep up as it moves forward and join Neptune. So this is going to be very significant as Saturn rules government and authority and restriction. Venus and Mercury will both retrograde in March in Pisces. So we're seeing the stellium going back and forth. Mercury rules the mind. Mercury rules Virgo, where the South Node is. So you're going to be aware of your mental loop. I remember that you used to, when Eckhart Tolle did A New Earth, I started to read more of his books, and I became more aware of my mind's loop when I read The Power of Now. And as I became aware that there was a lot of anger in the loop of my mind, I started redirecting my thoughts. So that could very well come into play in March, because Venus rules our self-confidence, our skills, our money, as well as our love and our partnerships. And Mercury rules our mind and our everyday activities. So that will be interesting. In April, we will see Mercury go direct, Venus will go direct, and they will join Saturn and the North Node in Pisces. Now, Neptune's moved into Aries, but is still in orb. Uh, Mars will re-enter Leo in April. This will feel really good for Mars. Your ruling planet will be much happier to be in Leo because it loves a fire sign, and it'll be in your fifth house of romance, of personal expression, creativity, fun, pleasure. Things should really feel nice when Mars re-enters Leo. In May, Saturn will enter Aries. And this hasn't happened for, I don't know, it takes 2 years, for about approximately 24 years ago was the last time that it was in Aries. I'm thinking that every 2 years, yeah. And I think that that's something to pay attention to, because as Saturn enters your first house, it could bring up old history. It could actually make you feel old, make you feel restricted, but this is where I love astrology, because Saturn rewards over time. Saturn rewards for the hard work you've been doing. And I personally have been taking advantage of Saturn's journey through Pisces and creating a stronger and stronger connection with my guides, my angels, the divinity within my own self. And as a result of that, I feel like when Saturn moves into Aries, it's an opportunity for reward rather than to feel restricted, to feel limited. It could start to bring your history into a sense of wisdom and to use it in a new way. But again, this is really going to depend upon the person and their level of awareness and their level of intention and their level of focus. Because if you focus on something that pisses you off, and Aries, you can absolutely do that, you'll create more of that pissy stuff. But you can take that same energy and focus it into an entrepreneurship or some sort of endeavor that gets you stimulated. And Saturn will reward both materially as well as emotionally. We will see Pluto retrograde in May. It's going to go from 3 degrees to 1 degree of Aquarius. So it has settled into the Aquarian energy. And I think this is significant because we're going to experience another opposition between Mars and Pluto. And this happens around, I should have said this, probably happens beginning of May, potentially the end of April. I should have said that a little earlier. Pluto will retrograde until October. So there'll be a revisit of those first 3 degrees of your 11th house of hopes and dreams, of who you network with and what you believe in as far as humanity goes. It's also quite a rebellious energy, Aquarius, and you're quite a rebellious energy because you are the peaceful warrior, you're a brave hero. And this entry here of Pluto retrograding is going to have you, it'll sextile the Aries energy. So depending upon the degree of your rising or any other planets inside of Aries, there'll be some revisit of something going on for you. And I think that this is an opportunity to really look to the future, to look to the 2.0 version, the butterfly version. Pluto, everyone thinks of Pluto as so destructive and so maniacal, and yet Pluto rules billionaires. It rules the kind of money that can really change and help humanity. And Pluto in Aquarius is going to want to do that, help humanity. Now we're going on to June. Here, Saturn becomes conjunct. It's entered Aries and it's now conjunct with Neptune. This to me is going to be very interesting because Neptune is so idealistic and fanciful, and Saturn is so realistical and pragmatic. And here, the only thing that is really going to be realistic is your connection to the divinity within you, to your guides, your angels, to knowing that you are an eternal being. That is primary. When that happens and that clicks inside of you, that conjunction will be very powerful for your benefit. And if you are unconscious or you're feeling lost, it could exaggerate that. It could exasperate it. It could absolutely be very challenging. Again, this is all about the self, who you are, Aries, as a soul living in a human experience. Saturn will also square Jupiter in Gemini for the third time in June. We had two squares in 2024. So that'll be interesting because, again, Saturn contracts, Jupiter expands, and Jupiter's not the powerful one here. Actually, Saturn is more powerful in Aries from my perception, because while, Aries wants to go, 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 to me, Mars is exalted in Capricorn where Saturn rules. So I'm pretty sure that when Saturn comes into your house, you roll out a few carpets yourself. So this is about being this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, okay? Saturn in Aries, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Jupiter will enter its exaltation in Cancer. This is lovely in June. This is where everything feels expansive, feels nurturing and warm. And the United States itself is a Cancer sun, and it has a stellium in Cancer. So we're going to see that in the background of our personal lives. I think I recall Mercury and Venus both being in Cancer for the United States. That's our money and our feminine and the children and our minds. So this will be good. But in many ways, because that's the United States eighth house, for you, it is the fourth house of home. So you could find that you start to want to purchase a house or put your roots down, or you could even find yourself revisiting your belief system about how you were raised or how your country has nurtured you. Because again, the fourth house is the home of origin, your country, your patriotism. Okay, so in July, we will see Mercury's second retrograde of 2025, and that will be in Leo. We will see Saturn and Neptune retrograde from 1 and 2 degrees in Aries to into the late degrees of Pisces. Saturn will retrograde to 25 degrees of Pisces, and Neptune will retrograde to 29 degrees of Pisces. So these two guys are going to be traveling together for a while. And so we're going to be revisiting where we have, escaped, where we've hidden, where we've gotten in our own way. This is going back into your 12th house and eventually moving into your first house. So for Aries, you have a very strong opportunity to literally garnish wisdom and gain reward from these two planets when you don't escape, either through your anger, your frustration, or being too dominant. That can happen with Saturn. You could be too dominant, where other people don't feel heard and they shut down. So these things could come up, and you're getting an opportunity to show and to demonstrate to yourself, Aries, your own evolution. We will see Uranus enter Gemini. This is going to be a big shift as well. Uranus is an air sign, the genius, and it's going into an air sign. This, to me, is technology boom or something. We could also see unexpected things in the media, but I think we're going to start to see a technological infusion of new things. I was just I saw some kind of commercial where there was glasses that were, I can't remember what they were doing, but there was something space age about them. I think they might have been giving directions or something. I don't know, but it's that kind of thing. When Uranus moves into Gemini, there's just going to be such a whoosh into the future. We're just going to feel like skyrockets in flight. This is going to happen, or Uranus is going to stay in Gemini until 2032, 2033, depending upon the retrograde. So another long-term shift. First Pluto into Aquarius, then Neptune is moving into Aries, and now Uranus is moving into Gemini. And they are all making favorable aspects to each other. So this is absolutely a conversation between those planets about a new Earth. No doubt about it. Okay, in August, Saturn will be retrograde, Neptune all month. I mean, they'll be just slowly going back into Pisces, and that's something to be aware of because Saturn rules history, Neptune rules escapism. And I think you may want to escape your history, and I think that there's no escaping anything. I think this is all about the extraction of wisdom. Venus and Jupiter will both be in Cancer, and they'll be exact at 13 degrees on August 11th. This is warm and fuzzy for home, for hearth, for feeling connected. You could even, this is Jupiter and Venus both have money attached to them. You could find yourself making money from something that you've created or an inspiration that you've had through your intuitiveness, through your healing arts, through your nurturing energies, because Aries is extremely nurturing. It just, you don't see it on the onset, because if you think about brothers, a band of brothers, when you go into war with your comrades, you have each other's back. You have to take care of each other. You're that's just how it happens. But we don't associate Aries with that often because Aries is, got to get a job done. So if you look a little deeper into yourself and let the hero live, that's what I want to say. Mars will enter Libra in its detriment. I have Mars in Libra in my natal chart, and I always think of it as because I'm an Aries rising, so my ruling planet is in detriment in the house of my sun, offering me an opportunity to learn to be a diplomatic, peaceful warrior. So that's going to go on. And we will also see Venus enter Leo and start in opposition with Pluto. That happens at the end of the month. And this could have a lot to do with money and personal pleasures and freedoms. Here it is, August, hopefully, things. I haven't looked at the United States charts, but I do plan on doing that at some point to see how that's going to affect us all, because that's kind of a world vibration right now. September, we will have our second eclipse season. The full moon total lunar eclipse in Pisces, and then we will have our first new moon solar eclipse in Virgo. And I think that's a really good time for allowing the mind to be the device of the soul, rather than have the mind be the naysayer or the ego expression. So I think that's good for planting seeds there. Again, eclipses have a 6-month influence. So you may find that with the eclipse that happened in Aries, you may find some, I don't know why I want to say it, but when the full moon total lunar eclipse comes in Pisces, you may have some kind of revelation. You may have some sort of Piscean connection with another part of yourself. This may sound crazy, but you may, with Neptune and Saturn floating around in your first house and then your 12th house, you may even have weird glimpses of, a part of you that has lived in prior lifetimes. I know that may sound funny to some of you, but sometimes when I watch certain things, it triggers like almost a weird memory for me. And it's not clear, but it really resonates. So that could very well happen. During this time and during this eclipse season. Saturn will re-enter in retrograde. It will re-enter Pisces. And Uranus is retrograding from 1 degree of Gemini, where it's just moved into this new sign, back into Taurus for its final, let's say, renovation, okay, of your second house. And I think this will be revisiting your skill set, revisiting your confidence moving forward, and understanding a certain pacing that Saturn is offering you as you take slow, methodical steps based on not only an inner knowing, but also what you've learned over the last, couple of years. Because I do think Mars has been going through something and learning the way that his mind works. Mars spent a lot of time in Gemini in 2023, And now we get to implement that energy moving forward. Okay, in October, Jupiter will be in Cancer and it will be trining Saturn retrograde in Pisces. So we see first they have square conversations where there's something tense, and now we're feeling a little more harmony between the two planets. And this again is the extraction of wisdom. That Jupiter is the connection to the angelic realm. It rules religion and faith in that respect. And I think here, there's going to be some kind of reconciliation in your heart and your mind about how your history has actually served you, even if initially it felt like it was trying to pull you under. Pluto will move direct in October in Aquarius. And Neptune will also retrograde back into Pisces. Again, these two planets are hanging out together. Neptune obviously is the much slower planet, but for now, there's a lot of conversation about your history, your soul's history, your opportunity to extract the reward and then apply it to the self with discipline and with consistency. And I think that's what Saturn's real opportunity is, moving into your first house. Okay, now in November, Mercury will have its third retrograde. I'm starting to notice that Mercury likes to retrograde in Sagittarius a lot. This will be the third year in a row, but this time it's retrograding in the early degrees and then back into Scorpio. So Mercury will retrograde from 6 degrees Sagittarius to 20 degrees of Scorpio. This is in your 9th and 8th houses from November 9th until the 29th. So you'll have a real opportunity again to revisit. This is the retrogrades. Money. I'm looking at Jupiter as money for some reason, and I'm looking at Scorpio as money because Scorpio again rules big money, finances, it rules the stock market and, investment banking kind of things. So you may start thinking again about some kind of either expanding upon or potentially in starting something that brings more wealth to you, but this would be an individual entrepreneur type of thing. I don't know if it's a side hustle or if you're going to try to do something permanently for yourself. Jupiter will retrograde in Cancer in November. It will retrograde from 25 degrees to 15 degrees of Cancer. And this will happen from November 11th, 2025 until March 11th, 2026. I don't think this is a negative thing, meaning sometimes retrogrades, people go, oh, the planet's moving backwards, everything's going to go wonky. Here it is exalted in Cancer. And I think that Jupiter's just willing to put his feet up on the ottoman and sit in the house for a minute and enjoy the smells of good cooking and the nurturing environment of home. So I think this retrograde could very much bring a sense of almost revisiting what brings you a sense of expansion, what brings you a sense of diversity in your life. And also, I really think that my Mars ruled people are going to start to want to individualize themselves in some way, either something that you feel very impassioned about. And I say that because you've been experiencing the North Node in your first house. Now moving into that 12th house, it's an opportunity to really birth that through your connection to the divine, through your meditations, your affirmations, your awareness that it's so important that you speak with the same vibration of what you want. Not sometimes we say we want something and there's an underbelly of hope or lack. And this is what this whole Pisces energy is going to identify for you, where there's old resentments, where there's old lack, where there's old anything that has made you not feel expansive. Okay, so that's going to be an interesting retrograde. Then Saturn will go direct at the very end of November at 25 degrees of Pisces. And he won't be back for the next 30 years. So, did I say 30 years? I didn't mean 30 years. I meant 24 years. December, we see Jupiter trine Saturn for the second time. And this time, Jupiter is retrograde and Saturn is direct. So we see similar themes, and yet the planets are swapping priorities. Because I really think that this is where Jupiter extracts the wisdom from Saturn. Oh, I get why this happened. As I became more intuitive, I realized that spirit literally used my dramas and traumas of my youth to help me identify the energies in my clients. I don't necessarily see their dramas. I'll see a reasonable facsimile of my own drama or something I've seen somewhere. And that really turned a corner for me intuitively, and it brought a lot of trust. So I think that's really, really powerful. Again, Saturn is Pisces in your 12th house, and Jupiter is in your fourth house of home. And finally, Neptune will go direct in December at 29 degrees of Pisces. And in the new year, move into, meaning 2026, move into Aries for 15 plus years. So that's going to be quite a significant shift. So we're going to be feeling a lot this year. And I think having a little bit of information now can help you extract the highest vibration from these planets, because all planets have their pluses and minuses, their pros and their cons. I do monthlies, so I will go into more depth for y'all throughout the month, but here's your highlights. So thank you so much, Aries, for watching. Please please subscribe, hit the notification bell. There's going to be lots of new content coming out, and be sure to check out my Instagram account, Teri Hunter Astrology _. We're starting to build that up, and we're going to be doing some fun things on that as well. All right, Aries, Happy New Year and have a wonderful 2025.